as we look at how drugs are designed and marketed, just understand all things are drugs, right? So I mean, the preservative in your kid's Cheerios is a drug. I mean, all these chemical compounds are designed to have an effect on living systems. Otherwise, we wouldn't use flavor enhancers, right? So all of them are that. And so as we make novel chemicals, typically what happens now, different than most of us in the audience can relate to when we were growing up, is that now chemical companies manufacture a chemical first. They come up with a chemical compound first. Why? Because a lot of stuff has already been patented or has come off of patent and is now public domain. And so the only way they can drive their profit margins is to come up with novel chemical compounds. And so they hire a bevy of scientists that their sole job is to see, hey, can I come up with a new novel chemical compound? Then what they do is they take, oh, here, nobody else has got this one, patent it, quick. So they patent it first. They don't even know what it does, anything, right? So now what they do is they start injecting a bunch of like mice and stuff with it. And we go, I wonder what's going to happen to living systems. And if it does something novel that's predictable and measurable, they go, if it does this to the body, is there any disease or problem or whatever that the consumer would say if it blocks this from happening or creates this to happen, that they would think that's a value. That's how it's done now. You see, it's backwards now. It's not like, let's do the March of Dimes. It's backwards. And most people don't understand this. It's about money. There might be some nobility behind it too. Okay? So now we go into what's called the phase 0, the base trials, and that's where they actually start giving it to human beings. So they've already done this stuff with animals, and they start doing it with human beings. So these are typically very small. These are typically done with anywhere from 5 to 15 people. So you hear these ads on the radio, right? Would you like to be part of a medical study on diabetes? Right? Now think of this. If you're the type of person that even a half a glass of wine gives you a ripping headache, are you the type of person who's going to volunteer for that? Probably not. If you're the type of person who goes, hey man, I could use an extra $500, $600, and man, I can do beer bongs all night long and I feel great, you're going to be probably the person who's going to volunteer for something like that. Because they typically do these types of things at colleges. I mean, you go to any college, there's tons of these types of ads that you can get. That's how people get money. So you volunteer for it. Now here's the thing. Right off the bat, we've got skewed information, don't we? Because you're dealing with people that for whatever reason on the bell curve, they're over here. They can do all kinds of heinous stuff to themselves and they don't feel it. It's like a lot of athletes that come into my office and go, I don't have any problems. I never had a problem with my back. And I go, really, your x-rays tell you a whole different story, my friend. Well, it's not bothering me. I'm like, okay. Whatever. That's like going to your cardiologist. Yeah, doc, I know I got 70% occlusion, but I feel great. So then we go into phase 1 testing, which is where we actually start trying to say, all right, it seems relatively safe enough to go to the next level. It didn't kill everybody in the phase 0 part. So now we go to phase 1, and we start trying it on people that aren't very complicated but have that disorder. If that allows us to move forward, and those are typically also very small studies. Typically, you're only talking about 20 to 60, 70, 80 people, under 100 people. It's relatively small studies. And then we go to phase 2 testing where we'll do a larger group. And these are the ones you hear on the radio. Would you like to be part of a novel, new breakthrough medication? All of your medications will be paid for. Yeah, I'm going to be a guinea pig. Woohoo! So that would be going into your phase 2 trials, a little bit bigger, typically a couple, 1,000, 2,000 people go in it. And then we go into the phase 3 trials. These are much bigger studies. They do them in different places. And these are the ones that they're trying to get their percentage of damages in. So these are the things where you see numbness and tingling, less than 1%. Headaches, less than 1%. Muscle weakness, less than 1%. Mood changes, less than 1%. But by the time you add them all up, you realize neurologic complications, 20%. 1 out of 5 people is going to end up with neurologic complications. But what we do is we break it down so small that it's like, hey, it's less than 1%. But let's say it's half of 1%, and now all of a sudden you dump it on the market, and 16.5 million people take it.
Right.
Do you know every one of these gun shootings, every one of them, the people have been on mind meds. Every single one of them. They're not anymore. Now here's the thing, because I was in a debate on this on the radio a number of years ago. Remember when that gal, Adrienne Yates, drowned her 5 babies very methodically in Texas? And I was in this debate with this medical doctor on a local radio. It had to do with, should she be tried as insane or convicted as insane, criminally insane, or convicted as premeditated murder? Now you got to understand, here's my bias. I think anybody who kills anybody else is insane. Now you might be justifiably insane, but you are insane. I mean, there's no sane person would do that. So obviously she's insane. And so ultimately what happened in this discussion was this issue of these meds. And this MD's point was, look, just because people that are already documented as being loopy do loopy things doesn't mean the drug that they were taking had anything to do with it. And that is a valid argument. I mean, that really is. I said, you know what, I agree. That is a valid argument. But all we can do is look at the statistical increases in dissimilar groups, ones who take it and ones who don't. And there's compelling evidence that a certain percentage of people, those meds will push them over the edge. I said, but either way you go with it, I have a problem with this as a public policy. Number one, it either A, makes us have an artificial security that people on these meds are safe to interface with humanity. Right? It's an artificial safety net. Or B, the drugs push a certain percentage of people over the edge. And so even if it's 1/10 of 1% or 1/100th of 1%, when you give it to 27 million people, you're now dealing with 27,000 potential psychopaths. And one person that really loses it can do a whole lot of damage. And that was kind of where we ended the debate. That's what we call phase 4 testing. So please understand, you're already a guinea pig. Other countries don't do it the way we do it here in America. Europe has and Canada and Australia and New Zealand have all adopted the concept that if you come up with new novel compounds that affect biological systems, you have to irrefutably prove they're safe before you can put them on the market. In America, we say they're generally regarded as safe and dump them on the market. And see what happens. I'm a libertarian, but I think when you go and you muck with biological systems, now you're mucking with God stuff. And so I'm pretty conservative in that. But some people would consider that liberal, right? I don't know. But here's the reality, right?